Serendipity, a presentation by Kim Bogdan. We've all been there, reaching that aha moment where we think to ourselves, why didn't I think of that before? Sometimes it takes hours or days, sometimes it takes months or years. This phenomenon is what we now know as serendipity. The word serendipity was first coined by the English novelist Horace Walpole in a letter he wrote where he referred to a Persian fairy tale called The Three Princes of Serendip. Contemporary novelist John Barth later described this imaginary place called Serendip by explaining, "You don't reach Serendip by plotting a course for it. You have to set out in good faith for elsewhere and lose your bearings serendipitously." Serendipity is born out of happy accidents. What makes them happy, though, is the fact that the discovery that's been made is meaningful in some way. It completes a hunch that was previously existing. Serendipity needs unlikely collisions of ideas in order to lead to a new discovery. However, it needs some sort of existing idea in order to anchor the new discovery. The challenge is how to create environments that foster these serendipitous connections, which leads to quite a paradox. You can't exactly plan for serendipity. Well, not exactly. As Steve Johnson explains, your mind contains an infinite number of ideas and memories at any given time, which you're not even conscious of. They are simply waiting for the right circumstances to come together in order to create a new discovery. So he suggests some strategies that one might want to undertake in order to meet these desirable circumstances. Johnson suggests that removing yourself from the task-based focus of modern life, by taking a walk, for example, is a great way to get your mind into a more associative state where it has the opportunity to stumble across some old connections that it might be overlooking. French mathematician and physicist Henri Poincaré describes serendipitous moments as compared to atoms, with each partial idea or hunch represented by an atom hooked to a wall. In normal situations, the atom remains in place, but when the mind wanders, the atoms become detached and get put into motion. When these atoms collide, their impacts may produce new combinations, much like how a new idea is formed. Johnson also suggests that reading can be a great platform for the right circumstances for serendipity to occur. However, it requires reading for an extended period of time, which most of us don't do when we read a book. We read bits here and there. Johnson describes what some of the world's leading innovators, like Bill Gates, do, which is to take an actual reading vacation, where they deliberately go through stacks of reading material, usually unrelated to their day-to-day focus. The point is to give new ideas the opportunity to network among themselves with other ideas that may have been floating around in the background. Obviously, this isn't always feasible within most people's careers, but Johnson suggests that companies might want to figure out a way to give their employees dedicated time to immerse themselves in a network of new ideas. This could lead to huge organizational leaps and bounds if ideas are simply given the right platform on which to meet upon. Many have noticed that recently, along with the rise of the internet, there has also come a decline in serendipitous discovery. The internet has created an environment where you can search within very specific parameters and usually, only after a few sidesteps here and there, be led to the answer you were looking for. This has led to the lack of search and find that used to be much more common when people had to go to a library and actively search for information, often leading them on other tangents that may have led to serendipitous discoveries that the internet may overlook within its search. It has been suggested that social media sites are also a cause of this decline, highlighting information that everyone else finds important while filtering out other ideas. This is referred to by sociologists as value homophily, which is our tendency to associate with others who think in similar ways. Therefore, on these social media sites, most of us end up with a newsfeed that feels more like an extended dinner party. I have to admit that I personally am all too familiar with this recent phenomenon, sometimes finding out the latest breaking news via a friend's status update on Facebook instead of from an actual news authority. The rise of the internet has led to a great debate regarding whether the internet causes more or less discovery, due to the fact that its inherent architecture is vastly different than older forms of media such as newspaper. People used to be forced to browse through sections of a newspaper that they otherwise would overlook simply because of the architecture of the paper itself, one section lying beneath another and another. However, when people search for something on the internet, they also have to click through various buttons and pages to reach their final destination, so the question remains whether or not there is a greater opportunity for serendipity today or not due to the internet. The advent of the Google search is often at the center of this debate due to its highly specific parameters and results. As explained by New York Times author Paul Boutin, Google has made finding web pages on a specific topic easy, but there's a catch. Google can only find what you tell it to look for. With literally billions of web pages out there, how do you find stuff you might like but have neither heard nor read about? Well, one website that comes to mind is stumbleupon.com. My brother actually turned me onto this site a couple years ago when he would send me random links to funny images or articles on the web. After a while, I was curious how he came across these random pages, and he explained that he found them through a search called, quite appropriately, stumbleupon.com. The site is essentially a free online service that lets you click to a seemingly random page on the internet. But StumbleUpon isn't quite so random. It uses your preferences and optionally those of your friends to call up pages that other stumblers have marked as worthwhile. Johnson seems to side with the idea that the web has in fact pushed the culture towards more serendipitous moments. He explains that the simple fact that information browsing and surfing are now everyday occurrences makes a strong case for the rise in serendipity when compared to other cultures dominated by books or mass media. He explains that especially if you're actively pursuing serendipitous moments, such as seeking out sites like StumbleUpon, the web has become a great resource for doing so. Most people realize that serendipity can lead to innovation. However, what some organizations have just begun to realize is that they were actually hindering their own opportunities for innovation due to walls put up within and around their company to prevent ideas from being stolen. Therefore, some organizations are now embracing open innovation platforms where they can share their research with others interested in the same beneficial aspects as them in research and development labs and frequent brainstorming sessions. However, Johnson points out that neither of these organized situations can lead to serendipity if they are too far and few between. He suggests that the secret to organizational inspiration is to build information networks that allow hunches to persist and disperse and then recombine. He encourages businesses to create an environment where public brainstorming is something that is constantly running in the background of the organization. By making ideas public, these types of networks can create a new architecture for organizational serendipity. As Johnson said in his lecture for TED, chance favors the connected mind. That is the essential idea behind serendipity.